Welcome to this explainer. We often think of the Earth as just, well, a static rock spinning out there in space, right? Just a mere backdrop to our daily lives. But the truth is actually so much more fascinating than that. Our planet is literally a highly sophisticated living machine. Today, we're going to uncover the invisible architecture that keeps this massive machine running, and honestly, keeps us all alive. Let's get into it. Okay, let's dive right into this. Right now, human civilization basically operates on a straight line. We extract resources, we produce goods, and then we just throw the waste away. But nature doesn't do straight lines. In the Earth's ecosystem, the whole concept of waste simply doesn't exist. It's all about continuous, circular rhythms where every single piece of waste magically becomes a vital resource for something else. It's the ultimate recycling program. So here is our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The planet on a loop. 2. The 5 major cycles. 3. A totally interconnected system. 4. Humanity as a geological force. And finally, number 5, solutions for balance.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, the planet on a loop.
So the crucial point here is that these loops are called biogeochemical cycles. Think of them as the invisible architecture of life. It's the continuous circulation of essential chemical elements between the atmosphere, the water, the rocks, and the entire biosphere, meaning all living things. Energy flows, elements transform, but nothing is ever truly lost. It's just endlessly recycled. It's really brilliant. Moving right along to Section 2, the 5 major cycles. These are basically the gears of the planet. First up, we've got the carbon cycle. And carbon really is the absolute energy pillar of all living things. It cycles continuously, right? Plants absorb it, animals consume it, and then respiration releases it back. Over millions of years, Earth safely stored massive amounts of this carbon in our forests, our oceans, and deep underground. The system works perfectly. Until, well, artificial acceleration disrupts the whole flow.
78%. Can you believe that? That is exactly how much of our atmosphere is made up of nitrogen. But here's the catch. It's mostly an inert gas, which means plants and animals can't directly use it. It actually has to be fixed by bacteria first. The problem is, humanity's invention of synthetic fertilizers has radically multiplied the amount of reactive nitrogen out there in the environment. And this excess washes right into our rivers and oceans, feeding these massive, unnatural algae blooms that literally steal oxygen and create terrifying dead zones in the water.
Next is the water cycle. Now, water isn't just for drinking. It's the great planetary thermal regulator and the universal transporter of nutrients. And what's absolutely fascinating here is the role of massive vegetation. Trees absorb water through their roots and then release it as vapor through their leaves in a process called evapotranspiration. So trees are literally forming their own clouds and driving global weather patterns. How cool is that? Then we have the phosphorus cycle. It's a bit more discreet, sure, but absolutely vital. I mean, you literally need phosphorus for your DNA and for cellular energy. Unlike carbon or nitrogen, phosphorus doesn't actually have a major gaseous phase in the air. It's securely trapped in rocks and soils. But today, intensive industrial agriculture is forcefully washing it right out of the soil and into our oceans, which is triggering a pretty severe collapse of aquatic life.
And finally, the oxygen cycle, the very breath of the Earth. It's deeply and inextricably tied to the carbon cycle we just talked about, produced massively by photosynthesis in land plants and by microscopic phytoplankton in the oceans. This cycle provides the essential fuel for the cellular respiration of almost all complex life. And yep, that includes you and me.
Which brings us to Section 3, a totally interconnected system. And this brilliantly illustrates how these cycles aren't just isolated tracks. They trigger a massive cascade effect. Think about it. Pull just one single thread, like cutting down a forest, and you unravel multiple life-sustaining loops simultaneously. Less carbon is stored, which impacts global temperatures. Local rain patterns are completely disrupted because that evapotranspiration stops. And without true roots to hold the Earth together, you get severe soil erosion, leaking all that vital nitrogen and phosphorus away. Everything reacts to everything else. It's a deeply connected web. So what does this all mean? Well, this actually reveals the climax of our ecological crisis. Scientists track 9 planetary boundaries that essentially maintain Earth's stability. As of now, 7 of these 9 boundaries have already been breached due to systemic human overload. So we aren't just facing a climate crisis, guys. We're facing a biodiversity crisis, a nitrogen crisis, a land use crisis.
It's literally a systemic overload of the entire biogeochemical machine. Let's shift our focus a bit for Section 4, humanity as a geological force. Now, what's really interesting about this idea is that humanity has actually become a geological force. We usually think of volcanoes or shifting tectonic plates as geological forces, right? But human activity now completely rivals them. We haven't stopped the Earth's natural cycles. Honestly, we couldn't if we tried. But we have artificially accelerated them way, way beyond their natural capacity to self-regulate. Just think about the sheer contrast between the Earth's slow, natural cadence and our rapid human timeline. It took the Earth millions of years to safely store carbon deep underground as fossil fuels. Millions. Yet it has taken us just a few short decades of rapid extraction and combustion to release it all back into the atmosphere. The core issue isn't really the carbon itself, it's the terrifying speed at which we're forcing the cycle to move. Okay, let's move to Section 5 and see how this builds into solutions for a balance. Because our crisis is systemic, the solutions absolutely must be systemic too. We can't just slap a Band-Aid on it. We're talking about adopting regenerative agriculture, engaging in smart, diversified reforestation, building a true circular economy, strictly managing our chemical nutrients, and fiercely protecting our oceans. These strategies are amazing because they don't just reduce carbon emissions, they actively restore the living soils, rebuild destroyed habitats, and actually heal those broken biochemical loops we've been talking about. So, how do we get there? Here are the practical steps required to shift our civilization. First, regenerate our soils through agroecology. We have to make the ground living and fertile again. Second, protect habitats by creating ecological corridors so biodiversity can actually travel and thrive. And third, close the loops using biomimicry. This means literally designing our technologies and economies to mimic the flawless, zero-waste efficiency of nature. We absolutely have to shift from that linear, extractive model we saw at the beginning to a circular, regenerative one. At the end of the day, humanity isn't separate from nature. We are fundamentally a part of this planetary system. We possess immense technological power, sure, but with that comes immense responsibility. So it leaves us with a choice. Will we continue to act as an isolated predator, blindly stripping the machine for parts, or will we evolve to act as a species fully conscious of the global balance? Think about it, because our ultimate survival depends entirely on our answer. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.